Hey everyone, it's me, Maria, back with another video. And I have been looking for work. This is trying to get my job search going. I did get accepted for a position and I was terminated the same day. And I do believe these people were perpetrators. Anyway, my goal is to make this understood by employers, so when a person tries to explain their employment issues like employment gaps, that this would be fully understood by employers. When I first started experiencing all these odd things in my employment, I was trying to explain to this particular lady what was going on. And, oftentimes when people are perpetrators or participating in it, but they don't see themselves as perpetrators, they're listening to what you're saying, but they're not putting two and two together. And this is a problem because they don't realize what they're doing is highly unethical and highly illegal, and it's very disturbing. Stalking is a very terrifying situation to be in. This is not an understatement. This is exactly how I feel. It is not a comfortable feeling knowing that people are against you for nothing. Now, like I said, my goal is to connect as many states in the country that I possibly can, and I'm sure they're getting a lot of complaints about gang stalking. It is a big issue right now. And, I'm probably just one more person trying to make a statement, but, it's really important that we put an end to this psychological terror. It is destroying many people's lives, and it cannot be reversed completely. Once the damage is done, it is done. So let's just say, for example, things start clearing up here. Even if it goes 10 years from now, people are always going to have their attention drawn to me. My life has changed forever. And it is unfortunate because I've done nothing to deserve this. So anyway, as I mentioned in my previous videos, there are laws in California relating to gang stalking and protection measures relating to domestic stalking directly relating to employment law. The entire country, and I was just made aware of this last night, I had a fellow YouTuber, one of my viewers, send me a little link relating to the anti-stalking laws. And USC 18 Section 241, this is an offense normally punished by a fine or up to 10 years in imprisonment. And see, I was just thinking, wow, this relates to California because I live in California. But yes, this is, and it doesn't necessarily relate to employment law. However, it is on the books because there's a lot of people who are participating in organized stalking, and it needs to stop. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't aware of the laws, and I'm here to try to reinforce them because, like I said, being a targeted individual, I could see if I was deserving of it. If I did something wrong to deserve it. Well, to me, the justice system should take care of people who are fully responsible for some sort of bad action that they've done. But in my case, I have protected my previous employers, okay? Not only did this happen at the place here in this town, but originally, going back, it happened into a place that was located in the Los Angeles area. So my stalking has been going on for years. Okay? And, unlike most people, people turn around and they complain and they, want to pick at particular companies or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I did start thinking about that, but this was way after I realized that I was a targeted individual. Before, I just shrugged my shoulders and looked for another job. Okay, I never raised hell. I never raised issues. I tried to keep this as private as possible because I didn't want people accusing me of things that I didn't do. And my biggest concern is that people were going to accuse me of playing the race card. Okay, when everything that happened at my previous employer was completely related to race. I never said a word after leaving that company. And yet I was constantly being accused of playing the race card. And this is the weird part is that I have protected the identities of the companies, and yet I'm suffering for it. It's like my husband says, no good deed goes unpunished. It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Okay, anyway. And so how does one become a targeted individual? A lot of times targeted individuals are a victim of perhaps whistleblowing. Something might have happened, they may have witnessed something, they may have done something or been on the receiving end of somebody's poor judgment at work, got into an accident, could be a workers' comp case, whatever the issue, something happened at work, and now somebody wants to silence them. Okay, now, something happened at my work. Nobody had to take any active measures to silence me. I simply moved on. But sometimes it happens just within the employment area, under your employer. Maybe you had a coworker who had it in for you. In my case, this starts with the emotional abuse of my family. Because of the overwhelming feeling of negativity, one starts to assume when they're targeted individuals that because it's so overwhelming. I mean, you go into a store, people treat you bad. You never met them before in your life, okay? But they're treating you as if you're a second-class citizen. They don't like you. They have issues with you. And you don't even know. You never saw them before, whatever. And so you keep thinking, oh, something this overwhelming, something this big. You know, especially if you go into job interviews at other towns and people are still treating you badly, you keep thinking, okay, something this big has to be government orchestrated. You know, it has to be some sort of master plan. But no, not in my case, and in a lot of people's case. And I think a lot of people would feel a lot better if it was a government initiated program than to have to deal with the fact that your own siblings would actually put you in a situation like this. They would jeopardize your life. Okay, your own family would jeopardize your life. That's a very serious issue. And so I think it's more comforting for people to be under that delusion that it's a government conspiracy. However, I do believe that sometimes local governments do get involved out of lack of knowledge. Sometimes, you know, in my case, I suspect that my siblings may have looked at my life, and I don't know what it was about my life. Maybe it's because I kind of keep to myself, but I keep to myself because a lot of times I'm extremely depressed over my employment issues, and I don't really hang out with them, and I don't see anybody. But the problem is that this is a circular issue because oftentimes they create the problems in the house. I mean, at work. They're the ones who are stalking me, creating all these emotional dramas in the workplace, and then they're going to punish you for being emotional and being kind of cold and distant. Also, growing up, you know, I was kind of a quirky kid. I was a awkward kid, goofy, but very explorative, pretty much happy, but different than the rest of my siblings. You know, I had different interests, different likings, and so that alone, you know, growing up, I did mention that I studied religion when I was younger, and so my childhood didn't really match the ideal childhood with most people. And like, you know, in school, kids often get picked on if they're nerdy or if they're a little bit awkward or whatever, and my siblings are no different. My siblings don't know the difference between right and wrong, and once you leave the house, you are no longer associated with the family clan. I do remember, you know, my family being emotionally abusive when we were all out together. You know, they would either do something to me to make me feel extremely uncomfortable, and I never dwelled on it. But now that I think about it, it's like, you know, that I should have paid more attention to how they truly felt about me. Instead of thinking that, you know, it was just childhood stuff. You know, childhood bullies grow up to be, you know, basically stalkers, people who want to hurt you in some way. It's bad. If you've noticed this behavior trait in your kid, you need to correct it as soon as you can. And it may not be something that can be corrected, but you can at least try to make sure that as long as they're living under your roof, that they don't behave in that, and there should be severe consequences for them. Anyway, so oftentimes this hot topic is not fully understood by employers, and so, but it needs to be, because so many people are victims of it. There's so many good, hardworking people who are unable to find jobs because the people who are sitting in human resource desk, employment agency desk, they are being gatekeepers to keep you out of the company, and instead of helping you along, they are joining in on a conspiracy to be a part of the stalking. They need to understand that this is wrong and stop it. You know, like I said, stalking is never going to stop. There's always going to be stalking in one form or another, okay? People are weird about that sort of thing. But there should be the guidelines set in the workplace to where that doesn't happen. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. I mean, you could have a great day at work. You can go home. You can live in a neighborhood where everybody hates you. And they might be, setting you up on surveillance equipment or whatever, and that's all very well and good, but one thing's for sure, you can pay your bills, Stalking should never take place. Now, my offense to my siblings, I'm not even aware of. I think it's just because I'm different, I don't think my life is really that different. I go to work, I come home, I have my hobbies, and that's pretty much it. Specifically, whatever my family's issues are, and I think it has something to do with the fact that I did lie about my race when I was younger. And one of the viewers wanted me to kind of go into what happened to me and how this whole thing led up. Well, I had met my husband in 2001, and I never thought I would date a lot of people. Well, I wasn't a lot of people, but just a few people. I've never had a lot of boyfriends. But when I did date people or exchange numbers, sometimes I'd give fake names. Sometimes I would, I don't know, whatever. I've been just about every race and every name. I used to like telling people that my name was either Denise, and I used to always tell people that my name was either Denise or Denise was a big one. And I also used to give them fake names like, I don't know, I forgot the other one. Anyway, I never thought that he and I would click. I never thought that we would. So initially I had told him that I was biracial and that he and I started dating, and, after a while I was like, oh, I really like this guy. Now what do I do now? What do you do now? And it was really stupid. I never thought I was ever going to get married. My intention as an adult, and when I was a kid I dreamed of the white wedding gown and everything else, but as an adult, marriage I was just completely turned off on. I mean, I just didn't want to get married, period. I never saw any decent, examples of marriage or anything like that, so it was just something I just didn't want to do. But anyway, isn't it funny? Because, my dad used to always say, it's always what you don't want is what you end up with, and, I fell in love with him, and I married him. Didn't tell him for many years. But, now he knows, okay? Now he knows, and he knows that, I do have some white ancestry, but I'm not, biracial. And so, but that was many years ago. And, I never really got into it. After that, I would say by 2003, I was pretty straight up with everybody. I mean, I was the first year I ever had braids put in my hair. I looked pretty much African American. I mean, I was, what I mean by that is that, it was the first time I ever experimented with my hair, wearing braids. And I was just, I would make up anything. I didn't tell people my name was Denise. My name is Maria. If people ask me what race I was, I'm black. I'm black. Okay, of course I tried to keep that from my husband, but, he found out anyway, and he knows, and so he forgave me. That's no one else's business. That's a domestic issue. But apparently I think my family was so upset about it, like they took it as a personal offense, when in fact it really wasn't. I didn't have them in my mind when I said it. I was just trying to keep my distance from people. When I first met him, you don't want people in. You try to keep people out. So you try to, project a different image so that there's no connection there. But, unfortunately, what are you going to do? Connections form anyway. So, anyway, I hate to make the rambling videos, but, my point is that he knows who I am. And he has forgiven me, and now I've moved on. He's moved on, and the issue of my race must have rubbed my family the wrong way. This is what I'm assuming, because and now I'm just starting to get it. But anyway, going back to how this whole gang stalking issue started, I was working for a company, and I was hired to be in charge of some employees. And, I initially met this girl. Her name is Selena Bruce, because I don't care about throwing her name out there. Her name is Selena Bruce. Selena Bruce is biracial, was biracial, well, when I was hanging out with her. Anyway, I immediately thought she was a nice girl. She and I would talk. We would banter. We had a good rapport initially. But just like, my siblings started the issue over at the other place, which I'm now figuring that out, she must have created some sort of monster in Selena. And so, but initially I didn't know that my family was behind it. To put a long story short, okay, when I realized I was gang stalked, I was under the impression that she was behind it, and she was the only one behind it. You know what I mean? I thought she was behind it, and then maybe somebody else. My family being involved in it was the last thing I would have ever known. But anyway, I think the point of it is that at work, the racial issues were started, and there was like this constant comparison between her and I. And the thing is, this girl was like 17 years younger than me, and I didn't understand what they were doing. I had no idea that they were relating it to some issue that I told my husband many years ago. None whatsoever. I had no idea, no clue. I just knew that what they were doing was racist. It was extremely racist. The behavior, the comments, the actions, all of it was highly racially charged. Never got the connection. I'm starting to get the connection now. Okay, so what happened with me, I was discriminated against my race. And that's pretty much the explanation that I have, or the conclusion that I'm drawing, okay? Now, maybe my family initially wanted to play a little joke and didn't think it was going to go that far. You know, that's what I'm assuming, but it did go far. And I wasn't interested in playing this game, this racist game, or any game. You know, I wasn't going around telling people that I was terminated because my boss was a racist. I never said anything like that. You know, you don't thrash your previous employer. You just don't do it. It's one of the worst I call it professional suicide. You just don't do it. You try it the best way you possibly can. So my thing is, that's one of the reasons why I do believe it's really important for targeted individuals to get the information out to employers, because you have to explain gaps. And I don't like lying. I mean, when I was younger, okay, I lied about my race, okay? But the older I get, I just don't have the memory for a lie. I don't have it. And so I try to be as vague as I possibly can. I usually say things like, well, I wanted to be in a more professional environment. And when they want to, make me elaborate on that, I just kind of say, well, a lot of family-owned businesses don't have policies and procedures set in place to where they're able to handle certain situations. And I try to leave it at that. I don't want to go into anything else. Now, I left that employer 3 years ago, okay? 3 years ago. And ever since then, it just got stranger and stranger and stranger until I finally figured it out. And it's not through psychic or telepathic means that I figured it out. It's the comments that people say. It's the behavior that is being exhibited, and and some people get so giddy and excited they can't help but spurt certain things out, and then you start figuring it out. Okay, but anyway, going back to, I don't know how many minutes I have on this video. Why is it foolish? Not only is it illegal for employers to participate in this, it is a waste of money to hire somebody that you are going to set up in a harassment issue. Okay, now, like just a couple days ago, I started my job on Monday, and, it was a job that was advertised as an accounting position. I got there, and it wasn't an accounting position. It was something that I would never want to do at all, and I have no enthusiasm about it. As a matter of fact, as I was there, I'm like, this isn't what they said it was going to be. I expected to have invoices, be sitting at a desk, getting work orders, whatever, entering AP, AR, creating invoices, whatever. It wasn't the case. And, what I was doing was I was being set up to basically be a customer service provider. Now, don't get me wrong. I have no issues with people who provide customer service, but that is not something I like to do. I am not one of those people. And every job entails a little bit of customer service, whether you're working as somebody answering the phones or you're even dealing with other coworkers. You have to provide a service in some way. And I understand that, okay? But for me to exclusively do something customer service related, that is nothing that I would be interested in doing. Okay, but so oftentimes when you're a targeted individual, you are somehow linked to a group of people who are perpetrators, and they keep setting you up in these employment issues, okay? They find you jobs, okay? And so you're in these jobs, and you don't want to be associated with these people. I don't want to be associated with the collective. These are people, members of my family, members of the old employment groups that foolishly got involved in my targeting. I don't want to be associated with them, and I don't want to be associated with anybody who's connected with them. Now, of course, you're in the same town. People are going to know each other, okay? But I don't want to be deliberately set up to be targeted. I'm not comfortable with that, and people should understand that. But anyway, it is a waste of money to set people up, train them, and, constantly making them feel like they're being watched, or this pressure. It's very disturbing. It's extremely disturbing, you know, and it creates a toxic environment. And it's a waste of money to train people knowing that they're not going to be there for very long. Why would somebody put somebody in a job that they're not good at, that they never in a million years expressed an interest in? Who knows? Okay, also, it openly condones discrimination due to ignorance. Now, everybody who's involved, all these perpetrators, and I don't know very many people in this town, but a lot of people know me, because somehow they're connected with the original perpetrators, whether that be my family or extensions of the friends that my family's made in this town. It openly condones discrimination due to ignorance because they don't realize that I was protecting the employer who racially harassed me multiple times, okay? And they're hating me for doing what? For nothing. So it's a horrible thing. Also, managers should keep negative feelings regarding employees to themselves or behind closed doors with members of management. If a person has an issue with a subordinate employee, by sharing that with other subordinates, you are perpetuating a toxic environment, and you are making the coworkers, you're giving them permission to bully that subordinate. So oftentimes, like I remember in school, you know, sometimes a teacher might put down a kid in school, and then the next thing you know, that kid is getting bullied on the playground. You know, if people in leadership positions have a responsibility to set an example. And when managers have loose mouths with subordinates, you are allowing, and you are condoning, you're promoting that you bully, and you're making that environment toxic. It's a very bad situation. In my situation also, these people's participation demonstrated their lack of knowledge relating to the field of study that they were supposed to be in. It demonstrated their lack of patriotism and their religion. You know, like I said, none of this was justifiable. None of it was. And I'm not trying to harp on it. I don't want to harp on it. What I want to do is I want to forget about it, okay? But gang stalking is basically an out-of-control competition. It's a one-way competition. It's a competition that exists in their mind, because I will never want to play that game. I'm not interested in playing a game. And no matter how much you let them know that you're not interested in playing the game, they want to play the game anyway. It becomes a psychological obsession with these people. Like, they're obsessed with it. I can go into more stories. I only have so many minutes, but my point is that, you know, I have no desire to see any of the people who mistreated me and abused me. I have no interest in doing that. If I was to come into money tomorrow and win $1 million, I wouldn't think twice about saying, hey, you know, I'm a millionaire now or something. I don't have anything to prove to these people. And that's how I feel. I'm not even acknowledging them. I don't care. You know, my point is I need to get back to my life, get back to work, have a job, pay my bills. I have no interest in playing this game. And this game is all one-sided. I have zero, and I think it is with most targeted individuals. It's all one-sided, you know, because most of the time, targeted individuals are afraid of their perpetrators. The perpetrators they're either misled, they got misled, and they've been deceived into participating in an illegal act. You know, and also it's not something that anybody would want to. Why would I want to play with my life that way? To win what? I am not one of those people who has to one up. Now, the girl Selena was definitely one of these girls who has to one up somebody. And like I said, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, somebody had to put her up to it, because it is a very strange thing for a young girl to feel envy directed to a woman who is so much older than her. It would never occur to me to have that, like, you know, I remember when I was younger, I was like 18 or something, and I was working in a department store, and there was a beautiful black woman who was in her 30s, and I just thought she was beautiful. Now, a lot of women, they're really catty, you know, and they're just like constantly wanting to be like the star of the show, and I just thought, wow, she's really pretty. And I remember wanting to talk to her and, like, you know, get to know her. Where are you from? And blah, 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 blah. I never had this, like, competitive, you know, jealousy towards her. She was too old for me to even think about being on that, to play that game, you know, like, I want to get all the guys or something. You know, I don't know what the deal is. But it's very odd. So it's almost like my sister may have been using her as a puppet, maybe. I don't know, but it's very strange. And this whole game, this whole thing, it does prove their lack of ability to use logic and reason. They're caught up in this mob mentality and groupthink. And I'm not even sure if they could even articulate what or how this whole thing got started. But one thing's for sure, there's evidence of it all over the town, all over everywhere. It's on their computers. Anytime these people participated, there's proof of them participating in my stalking. I just want to move on. How hard is it to move on? This has been 3 years now. I've been out of work basically for 3 years. Now, I've had some temp jobs here and there, but for the most part, I need a place to call my home. I need a place to be able to work for the long term, okay? And, while I finish my schooling and while I do whatever, I need a way to be able to make an income. And, these people are just making it very difficult, and they have something against me that I don't understand. Now, maybe they don't like intelligent black people. Some people are like that. Intelligent people have a heart anyway, because they tend to be really focused, and they don't get involved in a lot of the things that other people do. Like, they don't watch, some people watch TV, but, I don't watch TV. And I guess maybe my personal differences to a lot of people are offensive to them. Like, if they like watching reality TV, I don't like reality TV. And instead of them realizing that's just not my thing, they'll think, well, who does she think she is? She probably thinks I'm stupid because I like it. That's your choice, okay? This has nothing to do with work. And, it becomes so convoluted and so ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. It just is. And, I try to educate or tell people, explain it to people that it's a form of harassment. It's a form of harassment that has gone seriously awry, and it's almost like it's non-ending. I will never fully understand what set them off. And like I said, if it was an issue relating to my race, then I don't think I'm white. I don't. And a lot of people have accused me of that because I speak well and whatever. I think when you're younger, you do realize that white people have certain privileges. You realize that they do. They could